seeing, the community of AltSpace give life to it, like that's really what keeps me going.
Beautiful. Daisy, did you want to add on to that?
Oh, it's just that I loved what Anthony said. I've just built a world 2 days ago called Solitude, and when I came in, I've got lost 3 times. I don't know where the hell I am. Where is that? Where is that damn cave? It's funny.
I love that. Well,
Karen, to add on.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Nira.
I was going to kind of add on to what Artsy said earlier. I think that, making people's dreams come true is a big inspiration, or even not even a dream, but a simple thing. I know a lot of people have seen the fireworks show, but I don't know if people know the reason that I even made that in the first place was just one user in here said, and I met my wife during the fireworks and he was sick and he was bedridden. And he said, I on New Year's Eve, I'm going to be staying home, but I feel bad sometimes that I can't take her out somewhere. And I was like, good enough reason to make a fireworks show in AltSpace, so sometimes it's just a reason of somebody saying something that, something that can be so meaningful for one person can be meaningful for a lot of people. And I think some of the things that I've worked on that have that inspiration behind them have been the best things to work on because they come from a good place. And I think that you get out what you put in. So.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, I was going to say that Karen 666 and I are like many of you world builders, we like self-challenges. And we'd like to see, our inspiration often starts with, I wonder if I could, or what if I, and then, whatever. It's kind of like a bad logic thing. Karen, you want to talk about your recent experiment?
Oh, what, my gallery?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, most of the worlds I've built before, I haven't built loads like Daisy, but the ones I have done have been, I've used far too many kits. I've used too many. My first world had about 30 kits in it. You're only supposed to have 5. I went a bit mad. And every single world I've built has got so many kits. So I thought, well, I've got to try and, see if I can actually get within the limit. And then I thought I'd go further than that. So I set myself a challenge and I said to Lorelle, I'm going to build a gallery and I'm only going to use 3 kits initially, I said. And then I got it down to 2 and I said, right, I'm going to make it with 2 kits. And the entire gallery is actually built with the AltSpace, the geometrics kit, and the random kit that Tommy made. And I've just made an entire gallery with artwork on the walls, sculptures, and the actual structure of the building itself, all with just the 2 kits, plus the use of text as well. So it was a real challenge, but I think it worked out okay, didn't it?
It worked out spectacular. And you want to tell them how many objects are in the world and what the size is?
Yeah.
I have it here if you don't remember.
Yeah, the size of the world is 8 megabytes, which is, I think is okay. And the objects, AltSpace recommend using no more than 200 objects, and I've used 2,211. But it works okay.
Isn't that amazing?
I like breaking the rules.
No, I just love it. And she knows that I'm a Doctor Who fan, and she is not. So she actually researched Doctor Who and built a TARDIS and a Dalek, not being a fan, and in the door molding. This is, it's hard to explain this. Please check out Gallery 666. But the door molding, one line across the door is 16 cubes from the geometric kit. Everything has been hand placed. We call this hand sculpting. It is a patience that is beyond belief. And Mark, you were in there to see for the gallery opening with Univirtual, and you were just blown away by this. You want to just talk about that, the aspect of hand sculpting and?
Well, what she's done was at first I thought, when you first go in there, you go, well, okay, this looks okay. But then you realize that everything is an individual object. And she's got such consistency in the sizing and the placement. She does smooth curves made out of just cubes that are all exactly the same size and perfectly aligned. And to do that by hand is, I was just blown away, right? And sure, she could bring up the little editor, and you can type in the numbers, and you get some precision that way. But have you typed in that thing in a headset? That's not easier.
Yeah.
That's not easier. Yeah, and if you've done any kind of object management or world building like that, just knowing that managing 2,000 objects, all of them named cube number something or other, it just.
See, now everyone's
Yeah.
thinking, I really don't have a life, do I?
I think that many of us, as soon as we found AltSpace, life stopped, okay? Or it actually blossomed. So now I'd like to find out from y'all. Now this is where we could get really negative. We don't want to be, but sometimes when you put a student or an artist into a box and you put limits and caps on them, they actually become more creative. So let's talk about what are the limits of building here in AltSpace? What gets in your way? What challenges you? And then how do you break through that? And I know Daisy has been just devastated with the video issues with your beautiful video-based worlds. I know that has challenged you to no end.
Yes, that's been a challenge. And also when somebody deletes their account, that's the biggest challenge. When you're totally dependent on the kits that people very kindly share, but then somebody deletes their account. I lost 18 worlds and one of our community members deleted their account and I had to rebuild them. I was in tears at the time because it was just devastating. But yeah, I'm back stronger.
The shared is terrible. Yes, it is. How about the rest of you? What's your biggest challenge, the biggest headache?
I don't know what's the
I
biggest.
guess I could talk about this from like seeing a lot of people build worlds and helping them build their own worlds. I think there's quite a bit of lack of documentation with AltSpace world building, knowing which components they're going to allow with their Unity uploader, which they're going to disallow. So a lot of times it's, the community making makeshift guides and making videos, which is awesome. But for being honest, a lot of times it's just going to come through experience, understanding whether you could place something like a camera or like a level of detail component, and that still be passed successfully with Unity to AltSpace. So it's not like a traditional development field where you have a lot of documentation and it's very standardized. In AltSpace, it's really community driven, understanding what you can and can't do. So yeah, I would say documentation.
All right. And Anthony, what were you going to say? Or was it
No, it was me. I was
Tajo?
just
One of you two?
Yeah, I was going
Okay.
to say that it's actually kind of tied to what Nicholas was just saying, which is optimizing worlds for live events. So Rel helped me out an enormous amount when I was trying to develop the world for researchers in VR, our live event space that we have our events in. And it's kind of an interesting process. I learned Unity through Nicholas, through his courses from Tri-Universe. And so that's how I learned Unity. And it's interesting over the last year going through this process of like, you start to learn how to use all the features and you learn more and more and more. And then you start putting more and more and more stuff in your world. And then all of a sudden you've got this really big, beautiful world, but it's like not usable for public events because it's way too graphically demanding and it's not optimized. And so there's that sort of second phase of learning where you learn how to optimize for what your objective is so that you can build a world that is functional for whatever it is you're trying to build it for. So that I wouldn't say that was a frustration, but it was just part of the learning curve of kind of going through the process. Just learning how to optimize a world for whatever it is you want to use it for.
Yes. And Taja, you had something to add?
Well, I guess adding to Carnivore's point as well, the optimization phase would have been nice to know at the beginning if there was enough documentation. And as a new world builder, I had to find out by asking people and going around. And luckily, AltSpace is a place where, you have a question, somebody will tell you, somebody will help you. And actually, I started Unity because of your classes, so thank you. I got the courage because of Carnivore. So yeah, it's the workaround and optimization is a big thing that I'm trying to figure out as well right now.
I agree with the
Arts-
optimization as well.
Yeah.
I really want to put everything, right? Like, and I
Oh yeah.
like my clients, like they want like my clients have the best ideas, right? Like they have these expansive imaginations that just go way beyond, you know, what I think is possible. And sometimes I hate being the bad guy, you know? Like me and you have talked about this.
Yeah,
We hate
yeah.
being the
We're the
bad guy
dream
because people
killers.
come in with such like huge imaginations of the stuff that they want to build in one world, right? Not across multiple worlds, but in one world, they want to fit like everything. And I have to be the one to crush their dreams and be like, hey, we can't do all this because if you're trying to fit more than 5 people in this world, it's just not going to work. So I think it's maybe not a limitation of particularly AltSpace, but you know, just the fact that all of us are using mobile, you know, headsets that there's a limitation with how big we
accessibility.
can do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
All right,
think actually,
DJ Moto,
the-
if you could back up, please, from the speakers, that would be really appreciated.
I think that sometimes these limitations are actually what's motivated me to build worlds. And I mean, if Jimmy was here, he would agree. I think I've made a career in AltSpace of trying to prove him wrong. He would
So
laugh.
Jimmy is one of the AltspaceVR developers. Yep.
Yes, and like when he would say something's not possible, this is where I know people get upset when they say this isn't a game, it's a social platform. And I'm like, oh no, this has been a game for me for a long time, people, of what workaround I can fix now. You know, like, so there's always something that we're told we can't do. And I'm like, challenge accepted. So a lot of my worlds have been built just kind of out of, I suppose, being a smartass. I mean, like, I think we can make that happen. So sometimes I don't think it's so bad with the limitations, because those limitations really, for a lot of us, I know Ben, you know, one of the great builders in here too, is the same way. You know, when he is told that something is not possible, darn it, we are like right at it trying to figure out how there is a way. It might not be the best way. We may fake it until we make it, but the faking is believable too. So
But I think
like
that's
those
part of the
challenges.
fascination about collaborative world building that we do here, is that we push and shove not only those boundaries, but our boundaries. We have to push and shove our expectations. Like Artsy said, control the expectations of clients.
We appear to have lost Rel for a second.
I thought it was me.
No,
No.
she'll be back.
She'll be right back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can say in the meantime, I can talk a little bit about that idea of optimizing these spaces, and it's sort of like sometimes, you know, let's say someone's going to write something, and you give them a word count. You say you can only write up to 1,000 words. You can't write more than 1,000 words. It forces people to be more careful and make decisions about what words they choose to include. Right? They optimize their writing, and some of the limitations that exist in here sort of can create the same thing. Like if you're restricted a little bit, it forces you to make more conscious decisions about what you include and what you don't include. Like if you look at all this stuff, you go, I can't have all this in my world. What am I not going to include? And so then it forces you into making these decisions that ultimately might result in it being a better world in the end. So there are some benefits to that as well.
Mhm.
Sure.
I agree.
You know, yeah, on the optimization thing.
Yeah.
On the optimization thing, I've found that the best way to optimize my worlds is to take control of every aspect of every asset that I'm putting in there. If I'm working with somebody else's models, then, you know, it could be a lot more work than it's worth to optimize them, refine the proper textures. But it's sort of like cooking, really. You know, if you want absolute control over a recipe and the ingredients, you have to make it from scratch.
Absolutely. Now I want to take a break here and take some questions from the audience while we're waiting for DJ Moto. Thank you. All right. To see what you have to ask from these amazing world builders. So hit the raise hand button that's down in the lower right corner, and let's see what you have to ask this great group. And while we're waiting for questions, can you quickly just run down the roll, starting with Daisy? Your 2 or 3 of your favorite worlds, the name of them, so people would know to look for it.
My world.
Yes, your world. What's 2 or 3 of your favorite worlds that you think people would enjoy?
People do very much enjoy my Castle in the Misty Forest, and I've just built the new Solitude world, which I'm really enjoying actually spending time in there myself. It's kind of got a, it's a nice place to go and take a walk. And I like building adventure worlds where people can have fun and just run and jump and play like everybody else.
Excellent.
So,
Well, you have great worlds now. Karen,
thank you.
your 2 or 3 of your worlds.
Yeah, I like the ocean, which shows like plastic pollution in the ocean, and my other world, Plastic Mountain, which shows how all the plastic kind of gets there in the first place. And also I like my food waste world as well, because that's a subject that I'm really keen on, and it shows how food is kind of wasted across the world and what we can do about it.
Excellent. Nira?
Oh,
I should
boy.
say your MRE kits. No.
I know. It's like I'm not really a huge world builder. I do have the fireworks world. Some people like to go and see that if you're looking for something that's more pretty. Other than that, I've got a lot of silly worlds. Like I don't build a whole lot of worlds that are meant to stay in for hours. You know, I build a lot of stuff that's meant to go there, have a laugh, and be silly. And 2 worlds that I think achieve that are mow the lawn, which I mean, if you really want to mow the lawn in
Love
VR,
that.
you can go do that, and it's just hilarious to watch everybody going around in circles mowing. And then a fishing world too. You know, people are all standing on this island fishing. I mean, they're small and quaint, and it gets people laughing together. And usually when you laugh with somebody in here, you've made a friend. So that's what I try to achieve with those.
Absolutely. Artsy?
First I would say Treviday. Treviday is my spiritual awareness contribution to the community. You can go in there and have conversations, with the cards that I've put on each of the tables. It's the one where you're floating. It's a floating triangle over the water. It's probably one of my most popular ones. The second one I would say is definitely Fall Factor Extreme, which is the obstacle course that I made. That one's now public, so everybody can run the course. And the third one I would say is it's Artsy's private jet, because that's my hub world where you can get to all of my other worlds that are public. But if you've ever been to one of my worlds, you'll see my logo on it. A lot of my worlds are not in my possession, as there are hundreds of people with my templates. So it's I mean, you're bound to run into one of them at some point. Which all of
Nicholas?
them are my favorite.
Of course they are.
Yeah, so for me, my favorite world that I built was the motherboard world, where I would teach lessons about the components on the motherboard, like seeing the RAM stick, seeing the fan, seeing the CPU. We used to hold events there, but some of my favorite student worlds that I've seen is definitely Hearts of Oak Entry by Zed, which is a really cool port world with a ship and beautiful lighting and water. And then also Mark's world, his first world that I really saw with photogrammetry, with Tantalon Castle. And now he's like doing amazing things with photogrammetry. But that was one of the first times we got to see his work, and it was a really cool world.
Yeah, and Mark Jeffcock is teaching the photogrammetry workshop. Thank you for helping make that possible all this week here for the Univirtual experience. So we just finished class number 2, but there's still time. Somebody's got quite a car. Car driving by.
What was
All
that?
right. Carnivore. It's the real word leaking in.
Yeah.
Your favorite world?
Man, I don't know.
One.
Which one?
House of
Karn. Yeah, everybody's like House of Karn. So yeah, I got to put House of Karn at the top of the list. That's definitely the one that I'm going to have to try and beat this year. Ghostbusters was fun to work on. probably most proud of the worlds that I did for the Mate virtual competition. I think that's probably some of my best work. But if I just feel like going someplace and basking in my own glory, I have to go to Agrabah. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So I just want to, on that, I want to, before I get to our last two speakers and their worlds, we're going to be touring behind the scenes of the theater worlds that Nira and Carnivore, Mark, were a part of building coming up in a future event with Univirtual Experience. So get ready for that. You can see true magic. I just love it. Anthony, pick 2 to 3 of your worlds.
There's a world called Viswig's Mountain Retreat, which is made with the AltSpace world builder, which is a bit of fun. And it's just like a high mountain kind of area. It's one of the first places I built that I walked around afterwards and went, actually, I kind of like being here. You know, it was when I was sort of learning and things. There's the other one that I'm probably the most proud of that I like is the one that is the world for the researchers in VR events. We have events every Monday, researchers events, and I built that world for our event space. And so I'm pretty proud of that one. I put a lot of time into that one. Rel put a lot of time in helping me with that one, guiding me. That was fantastic. And then the last world I want to mention, one of the most fun I've ever had in a VR world was, I think it was one of yours, Nira. It was that one with the spaceships that we went in and we were all flying around in the dark, blasting each other. That was
Blaster
so much fun.
disaster.
Is that still around?
Yeah, it's still there too.
Blaster disaster.
Disaster, disaster. That was
You can
so
tell we
much
got a
fun.
love fest up here. All right, Taja, how about you? What are yours?
Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Ooh, I gotta pick favorites among my children. I have no problem with that. So, the first, I'm a terrible parent, but so I guess I don't know how to say them in order, but the Scarlet Monarch, I'm very proud of that. That's the first world that I built in. I put myself through a very high challenge because I insisted on modeling everything, from the ship to the interior to the furniture and everything. And I guess the second one would be the Tidal House, in the daytime and the evening. That's when I kind of discovered, wow, I can play with emotions with my world building. And yeah, that was it's one of my favorite ones, the first house I built. But I think my absolute favorite would be the Madonna Lounge, because apparently, whenever I'm not around, because I'm in such a weird time zone, I am definitely, when everybody's awake, I'm definitely asleep. People are always in there and they're always meeting each other and they're talking and they always tell me that they meet some of their closest friends there. And I'm thinking, wow, this world is doing good, So yeah, it's weird. World building, it's a journey, and you never know what to expect. What you build, it takes a life on its own. So it's all out there
Exactly.
in the world. Yeah.
It does. It does. All right. If you have a